Session.
I didn't see that you.
Shh, we started.
This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers. A list of dates annually indicating that this work session regular meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, September 9th, 2014. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by Deputy Mayor Brian Regan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
O God, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, hear our prayers, and through thy infinite love and mercy, graciously grant us the strength and power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all times. Amen.
Amen.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll of the council.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Councilman Kramer.
Here.
Mayor Levine.
Here.
Councilman Prasad. Deputy Mayor Regan.
Here.
Councilwoman Sherman. Councilman Vasanella. Councilman Wright.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Regan.
Councilman Vasanel is at a school function, one of those back-to-school night type things. He'll be coming, but just a little late.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, we are following along on our agenda. The agenda and associated resolutions and ordinances are over by our clerk, Ms. McCarthy. Please feel free to get up anytime, take a look at them. We are following along on our agenda. We're now at item number 5, commendations and proclamations, of which we do not have any this evening. So we go on to item number 6, Mayor's report. So today, my mug of the meeting is I was in Washington recently and visited the newest memorial, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial. So I got a mug from there. That's here. Very good, very artistic, very poignant. So I suggest if you're there, please go visit, as all the great things that are there. So usually, as mentioned, our agendas are here, our resolutions, our ordinances. You can usually find them on our website, which is very good, the weekend before our meeting. So you can look it up, see what's happening, click on the ordinance, resolution, see the whole thing, so you can be abreast of what's happening, so you can, you the public can know on what we are voting, how we're doing things. The public can speak at a couple times this meeting. One is general open items, general discussion, and one is on particular ordinances. And they'll have to be germane to those ordinances. That's later on. In a couple minutes, literally, I'll have public discussion, then you can speak on anything that is on your mind. That's the only time to speak of anything of a general nature, and we're glad to hear what's on your mind. Our meetings are generally the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. Exception is usually, going forward from now, December. We have 2 exceptions. Ms. McCarthy will help me if I'm off. It's the second and fourth Thursdays in November and December. No.
No, the only meeting that got changed was the one in December, which is going to be changed
Oh,
from the
yeah,
9th to the 11th.
Right, okay, election day is involved. Okay.
Yep.
There is, as of now, and I guess that's written in stone, the Board of Education is having a referendum on some of the new buildings and fixing that they want. That's going to be on a separate special election, and I believe that's December 9th, Tuesday.
Right.
And so that we don't conflict with that, our meeting will move 2 days hence to December 11th. Okay. Please note when you come up, we're being videotaped. Okay, so a couple things around town. I'll ask for help me in pronunciation to Councilman Prasad.
Yeah.
Okay. Sri Ramanaju Mission, that was near, they had an event in town here. They've got their temple going up near the high school, and that was the other weekend. Assemblyman Shivakula was there. I was there. It was very nice. Got a nice wreath of flowers, all that. So thanks. And I told them you sent your greetings also.
Thank you.
And earlier today, I represented us in town and told them about all the good things we do at Edison Job Corps, where they're celebrating their 50th anniversary. They do great training for jobs, for careers, career counseling, for future education, for a lot of youth in the area. Franklin youth have been there also. So that was good. Their construction people did some beautiful work at Somerset Presbyterian Church in town. So the students do the good work, electrical, sheetrock painting, and the church gets the enhancement. The students learn, and it happens to be the room where we have our voting machines. You can see their handiwork if you go vote there. So also earlier today, together with Alice Osipowicz, our recreation, I got this $5,000 check from our Somerset County freeholders for youth services, the Arise program. It's got a new name, doesn't it?
Yes.
Can it?
FIPEP.
FIPEP.
Youth something.
Yeah, something like that.
It's
So-
FIPEP, Franklin Youth Prevention and Empowerment Program.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to get this in the bank real quick, so I tried to stick it in the ATM for the town, but it didn't quite work, so Mr. Vornlocker, you helped me.
I wonder why.
Thank you.
And upcoming in town, as I said, Board of Ed, special election December 9th. And from all of us, we're glad to hear what's on your mind. You can call, fax, email us, and we'll try and respond the best we can. So that's all for the mayor's report. Thank you very much. So now we go to item number 7, deputy mayor's report. So we've got Deputy Mayor Brian Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, it's good to be back. As some recall, in July, I did announce that I was going to be on vacation for the August meeting, and hence I wasn't here. I had to suffer down in Myrtle Beach. It was really rough not being here for that night. So it is good to be back. You know, it's like many folks, it's good to get away to relax. So coming back, we have a couple of things going on. This past weekend on Saturday, I attended a town hall, advertised as a town hall meeting that was hosted by First Baptist. Myself, Councilman Kramer, and Councilman Vasanella were in attendance. And it wasn't hosted by, it was actually hosted by the First Baptist Church. There was a moderator, and they had the chief talking, the police was invited. And it was a good exchange of information. Basically, the point was, we don't want to see anything like the Ferguson event here in Franklin. And no one believes we're anywhere near that, but it doesn't hurt to have these meetings just to, reach out to the community. So there was good exchange of information provided by the chief and by members of his staff, and there were also questions fielded from the audience. Just for total clarification, council members went out there to speak on behalf of anybody. We actually sat quiet, so it was unusual. Three council people, not a word from us. So, but again, a very good. We'll be investigating that, looking at if we're going to expand that model through other parts of the town in the future. So, did I miss that? Did you actually not mention anything about Rutgers and Big Ten?
Oh, no.
Wow, look at that. Okay. So I'll take the mayor's thunder. So this weekend, with this season, Rutgers has joined the Big Ten Conference. And folks may say, like, is that really important to the town? What's the side effects? So there is. This weekend, coming up for which game is it? Penn State game. All the hotels are booked in town on Davison, all the hotel rooms. So that is good for the town. It's additional revenue. In addition to that, due to the potential traffic, through Rutgers, they're providing support of 5 police officers for traffic control at, most likely Franklin Boulevard and Eastern Avenue, possibly other places along Eastern Avenue. So that we don't incur that cost, that is being provided by Rutgers. So we are also looking at it. There was a discussion last night at the Hamilton Street Business meeting, Business District meeting. At a higher level, our project manager, our special projects manager, is also working in an economic development role, and we're investigating to see what growth there is. I mean, it makes sense if rooms on Davison are booked, that the restaurants in that area, convenience stores, will see additional flow of traffic because the liquor store, because, usually there's a little drinking at a football game. So, people have to buy that. So all that is good for our local economy. Will it flood our streets? No, but there will be spillover from Piscataway and New Brunswick that we can take advantage of. And we are looking at the additional future role and possible areas in Hamilton Street down along that way. On tonight's agenda, you do see the the second reading of the Hamilton Street SID public hearing and adoption. So that budget is coming through. Again, as this is an advisory board submitting their budget proposal to council. So, I hope my members support that and vote that today. In addition, this actually is a 6-month just to the end of the year. A new budget will be in place for the calendar year starting January. Also, as part of the commitment when we created the advisory board and working with that to address the concerns of council as a whole, we were asked by council as a whole to provide an update, a status update, kind of on a 4-6-month type update to council members here. So we're targeting to provide that in the October, at the October session. Also on one of our ordinances, the amendment to allow serving alcohol at our historical homes in town. So, some may feel a little concerned about this. The liability is being addressed by $1 million policy. It's in the actual ordinance. Additionally, it's a good idea in the sense that if a family wants to have a family function, these homes are beautiful places, and if you want to have a small family gathering or a celebration, promotion for at work type thing, these housings are perfect settings for that, and having the ability to serve alcohol really enhances that for the people who would like to use it. So I think that's about it, Mayor. That's all that I wanted to bring back. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we are at item number 8 on the agenda, public discussion. And again, this is where we are glad to hear what's on your mind. This is the only time to speak of things of a general nature. Later on, I'll ask if anyone wants to speak, but that's going to be on particular ordinances or a resolution in one case. So when I ask if you want to speak in a moment, I'll tell you our policy first. Each person can speak for 5 minutes, and when you hear a tone, that means 3 minutes has elapsed. And when you hear multiple tones, that means your 5 minutes has elapsed. I'll ask you to wrap up your thoughts. Per our policy, people can come up only once per meeting. There's no yielding of time. Please address all of your questions or points to the council. We're glad to answer it if we can. When I recognize you, you can come up to the podium, and please note we are being audio and videotaped. So is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for a public discussion on any item of interest to the public, which does not have a public hearing of its own. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand. When I recognize you, come to the podium, give us your name and address, please. Mr. Tibbs.
I missed hearing Mr. Tibbs' voice when I was on vacation.
I was there. I've been there. Welcome back, everybody that wasn't here before. Just,
Yes.
Oh, is-
Yeah, oh, well, maybe it is.
oh, wait a minute. Maybe
I'll
not.
be very brief.
Oh, wait a minute. It may not. Is it on? I don't think so.
I don't know if it's on. I'll be right there, John. By now, you should know how to turn that on.
Yeah.
I know, but I don't. 100.
We're actually going to start charging him.
Okay, thank
Good to
you.
go now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm just gonna be brief and put some of these things to bed for another year. First of all, let me just get this out the way, and before I get to some other good things, let me get the worst thing out of the way. The pool situation is closed now. The pool's closed, and this year was a bust, total bust, as it was last year. None of the at-risk kids got to get in the pool. The senior citizens didn't get in the pool because they felt like that the staff was very mean to them and didn't want them to get them in the pool, so they didn't get in the pool either. You know of all the other reasons why the kid didn't get in the pool. So the only thing I'm going to suggest, please, next year, the amount of extra money you put in the budget for the recreation department for the pool and the expectation of all the kids that was never got there, that you take someone to put a staff member to take down there and to work with the parents and the kids. You can take it. You got it within the budget because a lot of the lifeguards were sitting around all summer long, 4 and 5 of them with one kid in the pool, and one a police officer. They had nothing to police and they had nobody to lifeguard, and that money was just wasted. So take some of that money next year and identify a staff member to go down there and work with the parents and the kids to take all the paperwork and all the signatures and the birth certificates and everything else. And I think it'd be wonderful if that would happen. And everybody would benefit from it, and the kids would be able to get in the pool. None of the kids got in the pool this year. Not a one of the at-risk kids. Hopefully, next year again, that'll happen. We're going for the 3rd year. They start early. The money's already in the budget. Okay. Secondly, I want to personally thank you, Mr. Bob. Oh my God, you're my man. You're my man. You're all right with me. I never did have no problem with you. Now I never did. You know, you're a good man. I want to thank Mr. Hornlocker because the at-risk kids, the same kids that want to get in the pool, the name is different now. The name is the Franklin Youth Prevention
Franklin Youth Prevention and Empowerment Program.
Used
to be a RISE.
That used to be a RISE. Now they got put out over the past week. I meant to call you, Rajiv. They got put out because of the movement with the SCAP being defunded, and they was put in spaces what they had, and they have to leave out of that building. And Mrs. Robinson stopped me in the middle of the street, and she was gone off the deep end and the same kids that's in this program is the same kids that's keeping Franklin Township safe in that area. They also the same kids that tried to get in the pool. I couldn't get in. So through the help of Mr. Hornlocker, we got 935 Hampton Street, a place for the kids to get into for to continue with the program. It's a great program, and I've been helping her on one end, she does the other end. That's what I was calling you about, Kimberly, but same thing. Thanks to Mr. Hornlocker. I think they got a contract signed.
We met with the executive director from the Alliance in Somerville, as well as Mrs. Robinson and Diane Leach Thompson and Alice Sipowicz and I, and we also had Justin Hyman in because there's some IT issues to bring their computers and phone line into 935 Hamilton Street. And we were able to provide space for the program. I have not had a chance to really discuss this with council. This happened very fast. They were told, Johnny came into my office and spoke with my secretary, I think on Wednesday or Thursday of last week. When I got back into the office, she let me know, so I talked with Aaliyah at SCAP and with Doris, and we set up a meeting, and we worked out all the details, and they're really not going to miss a beat. They have now taken up a permanent home at 935. We have space for them there to run the program and not have any lapse in service. I just felt it was important enough that I just kind of did it, and so it's done, and they're there, and that's where they will be from here on out.
I thank them very much, very much. Okay, and I'll be working with Mrs. Roberts. Over the years, I've come to the conclusion we're working with the same kids. We're trying to keep the same kids safe and out of jail and out of trouble. So we're doing the same things on both ends. I'll be working with her closely for the rest of the year, so far, okay? And I thank you very much. And I was going to mention about the meeting at First Baptist, which I was there, but I think Councilman Reagan did a good job of explaining that. And I wanted to tell you one other thing about that whole meeting, too. That meeting had me kind of concerned. But Pastor Soares is my pastor, of course, you know that. But I'm glad the meeting was done, because the police department and the community, we're okay. We're quite okay. We're comfortable. And the word came up in the meeting, being comfortable. We're fine. You know, I didn't want to drum too much. But the police department and the community down there, we're fine. We have a great relationship. And I applaud. We have the finest police department in the country.
We sure do.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
And that's because we have the best police chief in the country.
Anyone wish to speak on a general issue?
So, Mr. Mayor, seeing no one raising their hand, I'm going to make a motion to close the public session.
Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded. No one wants to? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried.
Mis-
Okay, thanks
Mr.
for the
Mayor?
input. Oh, Councilman Kramer.
I just recognize some faces, and I'm not sure everyone got the word, but there is nothing about Middlebush Park and the speaker system on the agenda tonight. That doesn't prevent a council member from bringing it up, but there's nothing on the agenda tonight if anyone's here for that.
Okay, thank you for that, the clarification.
Yep.
Okay, so now we go to item number 9, our standing committee reports. The first one is administration. Do anyone want to
Okay.
do it?
You want to do it?
You do it.
Okay.
Councilwoman Francois?
I think the last meeting we had, I gave a report. There is some restructuring going on in our court system, and we do have a spot open for a judge. So the admin committee has made a recommendation that we will do some interviewing for the spots on September 16th, and thereafter also talk to the resigning prosecutors and make sure that they're on board with the positions that they hold. And then we will make a recommendation to the full body council as to those positions going forward. And at some point, the council may decide they want to have full interviews with the entire council in executive session. But we'll know that after we have our meeting on September 16th. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I just have a couple questions regarding that. When you say September 16th, you said interviews, but then you said the whole council. Is that potential judges, or who's going to be interviewed on September 16th?
We're actually bringing in a couple candidates for the judge position. One presiding judge is already there,
Okay.
and then a potential new judge. And also, we're going to be, just as a courtesy, bringing in our prosecutors and just talking to them, making sure that they are still interested in the spots that they currently hold.
Okay. Now, these are big things for the town, obviously, judge and prosecutor. Can this be open to the entire council, so all of us can speak to them?
Yeah, and that's basically what I said. We'll be doing the initial screening, and I think what's going to happen after we do that and give our report, I believe that the full council will probably want to do full interview in executive session once we make the recommendations.
Okay. Is the anticipation that the whole council will interview all of those candidates, or only a select few? Because I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
Okay.
As a council person, I would love to interview all the candidates and see what they have to say. I'm guessing all of us would.
And there's no reason why we can't do that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Okay? So this is an initial screening. If it turns out that we may feel, or the candidates may feel that they're not interested, then there may not be no need to have the entire governing body go forward with interviews. So it's like a pre-screening process.
Is there, I'm just asking also, two things. A, personally, I, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and everyone else is interviewed in open public session. I wouldn't mind if we interviewed them in open session, A. And B, perhaps that initial one could be an executive session, so all of us who are interested, may want to do that also, a special meeting.
Well,
I
I'll
throw
just,
that at you in particular, but
Yeah.
I'm asking the entire council.
these are professional services appointments, and customarily, we haven't done it that way, where we've interviewed people in those kind of positions in front of everybody.
Okay. And I'm asking you, and you're the spokesperson, so I'm basically asking the council. How about if that meeting is, if it's going to be executive session, instead of having everyone come in twice, make that the executive session, and if the administration wants to take the lead on questions, and the council can be there, because, it's something I would personally like to see there, too. I'm kind of asking you on the spot. You can make a decision, or
It's
if you want to take it
noticing
under
of-
advisement.
The clerk can tell us if the notice is required.
There's actually a total of six,
Six people.
because there are also new attorneys there.
Okay.
So I'm fine with whatever council wants. I've got no secrets here. I think you're right. Everybody's going to be voting on this. Everyone should get the information. I was going to ask the township manager to ensure that everyone has the resume. I'm open to whatever council wants.
So I'm fine with the way that we've handled in the past, to allow the admin to do the screening, and then based upon their recommendations, we can decide at that point when to schedule the executive session. So,
Okay.
I don't think it has to be decided tonight.
Why don't we make it so that the admin screens, anyone will have full access to the resumes, and anyone you want to come to an executive session, admin will make its recommendation, but anyone who wants anyone else to be at an executive session can ask for anyone there. And if you so desire that every one of them come, that's fine. I have zero problem with that.
Okay, and just so I see so I understand where you're coming from. When, if we go along that line and the admin committee interviews, I'm guessing, but tell me if I'm mistaken, it's an informational process, I'm guessing, you're not going to tell people, I think you're number 3 of
No.
3 or 6 of 6.
I have no intention of
No.
communicating with them other than
Then
in
that's
the
fine.
session, yeah.
All right, okay, so terrific.
And it may be, I'm speaking out of, Kimberly kind of said, it may be that you agree with everything admin says and we don't need to have everyone there. You may see that, you may agree with the report, or you may just decide, you know what, I want to hear them all, and you're welcome to that,
Okay, totally fair then.
yeah.
All right, thanks for indulging me and put you on the spot a little bit.
It's not indulging you, I think that's a nice, open way to do it.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yeah, and I think that's what I was saying, basically. Once
it.
we do that pre-screening, we want to open it up to the full body, and if we need to do it in executive session, we're very open for that.
All right, good, thank you.
Okay.
And anything else?
No, I'm done, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. So next we've got B, financial oversight.
We didn't meet, so I've got nothing to say on that.
Okay. All right. You want a soliloquy anyway, as long as the floor? Whoever.
The master clerk
okay.
begs me to move on.
Okay. Okay, public safety.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
so
Deputy Mayor Reed.
Our meeting will be in October, so at that point, we'll have a report.
Got it,
There
good,
is no meeting in August or September.
thank you. D, land use, open space, parks, and recreation.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wright.
I'd like everyone to sit back in their chairs, and we have a long report here. Catalpa, the Southern Park, our own Councilman Chase summarized the meeting that he had with the residents on a Monday evening from the surrounding area with a preference for a lower intensity development of the park. Presentation by some of the residents on the concept of the Dunn-Gunther site. The committee discussed various options and this is what we came up with. CME, our engineers, will prepare a revised lower-intensity concept for the Catalpa Park that will involve several new things, including a tot lot, tennis area, and a cricket pitch. That concept will be done and prepared for the committee discussion at our September meeting. Prior to development of a concept plan for Dunn and Gunther, Mr. Vornlocker will order a preparation of a wetlands delineation submission to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to see if we have any wetlands around the site. We will also evaluate the feasibility of providing additional basketball courts at Delara Park. Now, at this particular point, I'm going to jump to Councilman Chase because I just did a real quick summary of what Catalpa or Southern Park would entail. So, Councilman Chase, is there something else you want to add in there? We're good. Okay. Moving on to Summerfield's Park. This is a park where the developer owes us, is that the right word?
As part of the development agreement, he needs to build a park, yes.
Okay. And we suggested some things that we wanted in the park, but that site might not be big enough to fit all the improvements in an appropriate way that they all fit. So the developer also presented an alternative layout, which included some other things that we needed to look further into as a committee. Mr. Vornlocker, our township manager, Mr. Healy, presented a third potential outlay for the committee discussion, which would accommodate a larger softball field. After much discussion, the three alternative layouts will be presented to the Recreation Advisory Committee for their discussion at their September meeting, and the committee will continue to discuss these initiatives after the Advisory Recreational Committee does its work. Moving on. Middlebush Park. The council will vote at some meeting in September for a permanent sound system at the park.
On the question of.
Oh, the question of.
Yes.
Need to change that one. The SCAP building. Mr. Vornlocker, our township manager, summarized the evaluations conducted on the site by our engineers, CME, that we needed to look at. The studies show that there are some things that we could have and some things that we need to remove, but we're still exploring how that building could be used as a teen drop-in center. Summerfields. Mr. Healy, our township planner, explained the request that Summerfields had about changing the total affordable units in the development from 180 to 150 units, while paying approximately $700,000 toward the Housing Trust Fund. We all agreed that $700,000 was a nice round figure, so we are preparing a resolution for the council adoption to allow the necessary changes to the development agreement. Last thing, the committee also recommended that we have further discussion on the sidewalks. Now, at this particular point, we had the discussion on the sidewalks, and we had the money approved in the budget. So the only question that we had was to direct the township manager to start doing the sidewalks because we had a study done. So at this particular time, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a motion that we direct our township manager to go ahead and put in the sidewalks where necessary, according to the program that we had initiated, that you as a traffic police officer know of, and the BOE concurred with that thought, along with Mark Healy.
So just to clarify, I think what the councilman is saying is that these sidewalks that would be targeted were sidewalks that were identified by a joint study between the police department and the Board of Education several years ago to deal with safety issues where children currently already walk to school. However, there are no sidewalks provided, and there was a need identified for sidewalks on those particular streets for safety purposes.
Safety purposes.
Seconded.
Okay, that was moving second to do, is that allocated in our capital budget?
It is, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So the motion is to direct the manager to do it, to look into it, what is, to
do
actually
it.
put them in?
Good.
To put them
That'd
in.
be like kind of the Burger Street?
To begin the process of installing sidewalks on those streets that were identified in need for safety reasons.
Okay,
Why, I mean, I can, as an example, Hillcrest Avenue behind the current middle school lacks sidewalks. Streets where there are a number of students who currently walk to school and are forced to walk in the street because of a lack of sidewalks.
okay. Any discussion?
What's it going to cost?
$750 that we put in the budget. Well, no, yes,
It's not the whole section.
yeah, because we're late.
When you ask how much it's cost, you budgeted $750,000, Councilman. That's what's in the capital budget.
I know what
I
we-
can't tell you how much it's going to cost until we start doing them.
Well-
It's not going to cost $750,000 right now.
Wait a second. So, no, you will know what it costs when you finish the engineering.
Correct.
Okay, so is this
This is a direction to move
information
forward.
to do the engineering or to do everything? Start pouring
Well,
concrete?
The general process that we're discussing here
That's
is
what I'd like to
that
know.
you give me direction to begin the capital project. As we move through that project, there will be ordinances on the agenda that allow for several things. Awarding of contracts for engineering, awarding of
Fine.
contracts for construction. None of this
Okay.
obviously is going to happen until those things
The-
are done.
Okay, the sound of what the councilman was saying to me sounded like start pouring concrete tomorrow, and I didn't.
We don't have
I didn't-
any of that,
I-
though.
And I'll finish.
We have to
And
do the
I'll finish, and I was not prepared to vote on that, but the process you just described, that's fine.
My issue here, and as it was addressed in Land Use, Councilman, is that there has been a tremendous amount of discussion about sidewalks and the installation of sidewalks, including a lengthy discussion at a joint council Board of Ed meeting, subcommittee meeting,
Yes.
in which, there was discussion about the benefits of installation of sidewalks. Until someone, and until you as a body tell me to begin this project, there was nothing that told me to begin this project. We have done nothing up until this point other than put together a list of those streets that would benefit from sidewalks for a safety point of view.
Good.
That's
Now-
all we need. And that's
Now
why I
underst-
suggested this is
Good,
done.
now I understand the
Okay,
nature
good.
of the motion, and
Yeah, yeah.
one of the things that came out of this school discussion, Mayor Levine and Councilwoman Francois was there, someone else I'm forgetting, you were there, was that this won't, basically, it's not going to change their busing. That was when I originally started pushing this several years ago, it was in the hope of saving money in the long run. But as Councilman Wright points out, it's about safety. So, good, yes, now I understand the process. Thank you.
Okay. And,
No.
and just to
Call for the vote.
to add on to that, when Councilman Kramer had asked for that, it could save money. It was conceded by the Board of Ed if they used those sidewalks and didn't use the buses, but they said they're not likely to go that route, even though they could. Here's my concern, which gives me hesitancy. I'm not sure if the people in front of whose homes this will go want sidewalks. I've got people who are concerned about a park near them and a sound system near them. And we personally got issues from people who
This is ridiculous.
Didn't like the fact that they had to shovel the sidewalk in front of their house, and obviously they have to because that's a safety issue. So we put sidewalks in, and we haven't cleared it with them ahead of time. We're told, and when the snow comes, you're going to get a fine, potentially, if you don't shovel the snow. And if a tree root grows up and buckles the sidewalk, you got to go fix it yourself. I would just want clearance from people before we do that. This is their home, this is their property. So that's my hesitancy and my
But it sounds,
we're not going.
it sounds to me like we're going to have that kind of opportunity for that discussion.
But that's a good point. Will we have that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be ordinances with initial readings. We can do mailings if we want to people who will be affected. So that's why if this was a vote to start pouring concrete tomorrow, I might have voted one way.
But let me ask you a question now. We're going to beat this we're beating this horse here. I mean, every time I turn around, we don't argue about cop cars, we don't argue about tractor trailers, but we're going to keep beating this horse to death. It's not about the school board, it's about public safety, kids and everybody else walking on our sidewalks. Why all of a sudden are we going to go down this road again? Let's leave the mulberry bush alone. I don't understand this.
I'll let other people speak before I answer. But quick, go ahead, Councilman Chase.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's clear that, yeah, there would be ordinances with public hearings at a point when we identify the specific streets locations where we would be building sidewalks. It would be premature to excite the public until we know exactly where we're proposing this and why. At that point, people can speak up, but I do think that, you know, between the difficulty of shoveling a sidewalk and and perhaps we can make other arrangements for the elderly who have difficulty shoveling a sidewalk, between that and the possibility of having school children hit by an automobile because they're walking in the street, I'd have to come down in favor of the sidewalks. But let's not worry. Let's worry about the public excitement over the issue when we have specific sidewalks on specific streets to discuss in the framework of an ordinance.
Okay, so if I interpret this as, and tell me if I'm mistaken, this is basically, we're going to get information before anything is awarded or done. Or that's not correct?
No, I wouldn't phrase it that way. The way I would phrase it is that I have now been given direction, if you so choose, to begin this capital project. This capital project includes a wide number of streets that are without sidewalks throughout the township and have been identified in reports from the planning department previously to council at various levels in committees. And if we're to move forward, the ordinances that would be involved, Mr. Mayor, are the typical ordinances that are introduced at this council level frequently, in that it is a capital ordinance. It is an ordinance to expend money. And you will have that same process happen here. Now, and there will be, I'm sure, committee reports that will be given over the course of this project, because I can't imagine how there won't be a report from our engineer to things like the Public Works Committee on where we're going and what streets we're doing, and just like when we pave roads, it's not any different than that process, and that process will be gone through, as we identify where sidewalks are necessary to provide safe routes for children to walk to school. That are currently, and I just want to stress that are currently walking to school in the street. And they walk in the street whether there's, no snow on the road, snow on the road, they're in the street, that's how they get to school. And we have a number of those streets throughout the township where it's not just walking to a bus stop, or it's not just in front of their own home while they wait for the bus. They walk on streets without sidewalks. So that was the Land Use Committee's request or direction that was why this is brought up tonight, was to give me that direction to begin the project, and the project would mean ordinance introductions to award contracts, ordinance introductions, and to expend money. That's it.
Okay.
Can we call for the vote, Mr.
I'm
Mayor?
just going to give my opinion on that. So Deputy Mayor's asked, can we vote? Just want to answer a couple of points that were made. Okay, I'm certainly concerned about public safety. I've said that since day one. I'm concerned about money. I'm concerned about kids. I put them all together, and I understand there will be checks and balances when people come, but I don't, seeing that the process is happening and it's going to be an expenditure of time and money, I don't know if I'd go along with it at this point. That doesn't mean I wouldn't say yes later on as more details come out, but that's just where I am.
Okay, thank you,
Deputy
Mr.
Mayor?
Mayor. So if
I'd
you-
like to add a point.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was just going to, again, if Mr. Mayor has expressed all his concerns, then I would like us to call for the vote.
Well,
If
but
there's other
I'd like to
discussion.
add one more point
Okay.
to that.
Councilwoman Francois. go ahead.
Because the Land Use Committee may know what those street recommendations are. Some of us may not have the complete list of what those streets are and don't really understand what the scope of the project is. So I think it would be helpful if some of us knew more about what the scope of the project is, and that might take away some of the uncertainty.
I can address that, in all fairness, if we
There are
were
a
to
lot
do.
of streets out there.
No, if we were to do all the streets that were listed in the study that was done by our planner, $750,000 is just a drop in the bucket here. So this, that's why I said this is not a short-term project. This is a very long-term project. And at any time when this council decides that that's enough, and that's, you've done it, done what was necessary, then that decision will be made. This $750,000 was budgeted. I think when we went through the budget hearings, it was made very, very clear to all of council that, if we were going to proceed with this plan, that $750,000 was only the beginning of a very long-term, many-year project to install sidewalks. So I don't, and it's not something that I anticipate, on September 9th in budget year 2014, or to be honest with you, probably to follow over into the full year of calendar year 2015, that $750,000 will be expended. This is a long-term project, and I think that as we move forward, it will be taken in small bites, so that, street by street by street that are identified in that plan. So I wouldn't anticipate seeing an ordinance that includes 10 or 12 streets in it, maybe one or two,
Okay.
as we move forward. It'll be baby steps.
That helps to clarify. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks. So the motion is to direct the manager to start that sidewalk project, in essence. So if nothing else, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the motion.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
No.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
I missed part of the discussion. I'll abstain for now.
And Councilman Wright?
You want sidewalks or no?
Okay.
Um,
Motion,
Deputy Mayor Regan, I'm sorry.
Is this the plan?
Yes.
okay, motion is carried. We're in the middle of 9D land use. Councilman Wright? All done, okay. So now we come to item 9E, Public Works. Councilman Chase?
Not much to report. I checked with the township engineer. The only significant item was development of an ordinance to allow the water rates we charge users to increase automatically when our suppliers increase their rates. This is not really us increasing the rates, it's just passing on the expense that we have for buying the water from New Jersey American Water and New Brunswick. So that's, so, thanks, that's all.
Okay, thank you. So now we come to item number 10, council comments. Yes. Over here. Councilman Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few. First of all, I feel I'm late at this, but it is time to shamelessly start advertising Canal Fest, which this year will be on October 18th. A lot of fun, a lot of food, crafts, climbing wall will be back. It's great fun. It starts at 11, goes to 4. It's been, last time we estimated 3,000 people attended. So please come. Profits go to the food bank. It's always on the same day that the Millstone Fire Department has, Millstone Valley Fire Department has its open house. So a lot to do there that day. Great for family. Also benefiting the food bank is on September 28th, the now third annual softball game between the police and the senior league. It's going to be more involved this time. It's going to involve, I believe, members of BOE, I think members of the township staff, and fire departments. Mr. LaCourte and I are organizing it. There's going to be 2 games, and then the winners of those 2 5-inning games will play in a 7-inning game. The trophy for that will be awarded at Canal Fest. Next issue, kind of 2 things came together at once. I got a call from a gentleman on Susan Drive, and it was interesting, and I applaud what he brought to my attention, which I'd actually already known. And I also applaud the irony of his request. He had 2 points. He wanted Susan Drive paved, and he was concerned about how high his taxes were. And the irony there is, of course, it costs money to pave roads. Susan Drive, as it happens, is the best worst road we have. So if you take a list of all the worst roads we have, it's in the best condition of all those worst roads. So it didn't quite make the cut for this year, and if we continue funding road paving as we have been in the last 2 years or 3 years, then it should be paved. It should be paved next year. No promises on that. Things happen, but that is my current expectation. But I had a long discussion with him on the balance of paving roads and the balance of taxes, and I think it was a useful discussion. At least he told me he found it so. At the same time, there was a editorial in NJ.com on September 2nd, and I'm going to read the short editorial. And it kind of strikes home the point. New Jersey, like many states, scaled back spending on basic infrastructure during the Great Recession. A report last year from the American Society of Civil Engineers tallied the damage. It found that 2/3 of the state's major roadways are in poor or mediocre shape, bumping auto repair costs by an average of $601 a year. It found that the state's crumbling water and sewer systems will require $40 billion to fix, and that 651 bridges in the state were structurally deficient. The editorial goes on to say it is beyond short-sighted. It pushes costs to the future, makes our economy less competitive, and aggravates unemployment. I won't read the last sentence. It was clearly politically minded. But it does bring out the issues that we have discussed here about street paving, about budget, and the costs of not paving. So I appreciated the discussion from the gentleman and the curious timing of the editorial. Next item, I too was at the First Baptist meeting, as the Deputy Mayor mentioned. It was a very good meeting. It was interesting that one of the major criticisms was, things are going so well, let's not become complacent. That's kind of a good criticism. It's a useful criticism, and it's kind of a good place to be. Actually, before the meeting was called, I had called our Chief Roberts, and I just asked him, convince me that we won't have a Ferguson here in Franklin. He then spoke for several minutes about what he's doing, and he'd be the one to recite what he is doing, what the entire department is doing. What I can say is, what I took from that is, our township goes above and beyond what is called for in order to try to prevent it. But then he said the most important thing of the conversation, and that was, all it takes is one. So he cannot guarantee that it can't happen. And what I liked about that is he is appropriately wary that it could happen here. And that wariness is the best guard against it happening here. So I was happy with the meeting, and I was happy with my conversation with the chief. My last item is, at the last meeting, we wished some people happy birthday, and there was another birthday that we didn't recognize, and that was a one-year birthday for the Franklin Reporter and Advocate. In this day and age, it's unusual for online journals to make it that far, and as I can best tell, it appears to be thriving. I've pushed the Franklin Reporter and Advocate here several times, so much so that I've actually asked people if I had a financial stake in it, and I do not. I do, however, have a stake in it, as do all of you. Jefferson charged us with eternal vigilance, and he envisioned a republic that required an informed electorate. Nowadays, the print media completely ignores our town. Without journals such as the Franklin Reporter and Advocate, it would be impossible in this day and age to keep up with what's going on in local government. It's not only important for Franklin that it succeeds, it's important for communities everywhere that it succeeds, as an example that this is possible. So, happy birthday, Franklin Reporter and Advocate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Ted Chase.
Well, Councilman Wright has already essentially reported on the meeting that I had with the neighbors of Catalpa Park, who were very well organized and presented a very well organized case for how we could develop the most of what has been proposed, was originally proposed for Catalpa Park at the Dunn and Gunther properties, which are not really in anybody's backyard. They're perhaps across South Middlebush Road from a few backyards, but it's nothing like the close relationship of some parts of the Catalpa property to a number of homes. So you've heard, what we have done so far in response to that. I attended today a meeting of the Somerset County Business Partnership, primarily to hear Assemblyman Shivakula talk about the energy picture in the state. It was mostly pretty big picture, and what the state has been trying to do, and in some cases has been knocked back by the courts. But I had the opportunity to make some contacts there, and in particular, something I'm very interested in is to try to work through the Hamilton Street Business Partnership to aid business owners there to become more energy efficient, save money for themselves, explore ways we can get money to achieve this energy efficiency. I was also told about the New Jersey PACE program, which essentially enables businesses to make energy efficiency improvements and pay it off over time, essentially through the township tax system. And this is something I'd like to have explored before one of our committees in the future. And I will also explore through Sustainable Jersey the various possibilities, ways of doing this, and I hope if we can get started with the Hamilton Street Business District, where we have a vehicle for contracting our businesses, then we can expand it further to businesses in other parts of the town. This is, of course, just one of the many things that we can do that fit into the Sustainable Jersey program for making towns more sustainable. And we're up next year for recertification by Sustainable Jersey, and I'm going to, we've been quiescent for the last year and a half, but it's now time to get the committee going again, perhaps make some additional appointments to the Green Team, and in general, look at all of the actions that we can carry out to make this a better township. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
I wish Johnny Tibbs was here so I could make a comment. Hopefully he's watching on TV. So he said that the pool was a flop this year. Well, we didn't have the best weather for pool activity. And I also think that a lot of people in the township don't realize that the pool is open for everybody in the township, not just for the Parkside area. It's a public pool. It's owned by the township. Anybody can participate. So I think we have to do a better job of advertising and let more people know that we have that pool open over there and that more people can participate. So I don't know that it was a flop. I just think that the weather, we didn't have that hot of a summer this year. I also wanted to say that I was out of the country when we had the town hall meeting with Pastor Soares, or else I certainly would have been there. I received a lot of good feedback about that town hall meeting, and I'm most appreciative of the fact that we have such a great relationship with our police department and our community. In particular, I'm grateful that we have the police chief that we have. He's phenomenal. And I'm glad that Reverend Soares had the foresight and the vision to bring the community together and the police department and talk about issues that may be out there. And I hope we continue that dialogue. I hope that's not the first. I hope we have very many of those ongoing. And then one comment about FIPEP. Before I went on vacation, I was working with the CDI over at SCAP trying to find a home for FIPEP. I was under the impression that the 935 might not have been big enough because the space that we had over at 900 Hamilton was a huge space. I thought about that area, but me getting ready to go on vacation, I mentioned to Doris there were some other areas like the community center and 935 that potentially could be an opportunity, but I didn't follow up on that. So I'm very glad that you did what you did, Mr. Von Locker. I was over there the day before I went on vacation, and the kids were working on their computers, and they were playing, and they were jumping around, and they were doing all kind of stuff. And I met with Doris, and I met with the SCAP leadership as well as CDI, and it became very, very obvious that there was nothing we could do to keep them there in that building. So I'm really glad to hear that they now do have a home, and that you acted as quickly as you did. I commend you for that. It really means a lot to those kids. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I want to apologize that I am suffering from the allergies and seasonal flu, and would recommend that everybody get a flu vaccine. As far as the pool is concerned, I think we can do a better job to try and get these people enrolled in the future. Hopefully it'll be a hotter summer and you have greater demand. I concur with Councilwoman Francois that we can do a better job of marketing that pool. As far as the SCAP Youth Center is concerned, that is something that is a top priority, and that we should try and get that going to prevent any mishaps and make sure our youth are actively occupied. As for the sidewalks, just for the record, the BOE did do an efficiency study, I think at the goading of Councilman Kramer, and they came up with one of the leading recommendations was that if they put in sidewalks and had the kids walking, they could save some money. Now, they don't want to pass on any of those savings and use them for other budgeted items, that's fine. But the important thing is we look out for the safety of our kids and not have them walking the streets. So that's my main reason for pushing for the sidewalks. And I was contacted by the New Jersey Public Interest Research Group about public financing of campaigns. And I firmly believe that if we took money out of politics, I think we will all benefit by allowing people who are, competent but do not have the ability to go out and spend all their time raising money. We don't get anything out of our legislators who spend all their time raising money. So I think we'll have more efficient government if we had some form of public financing of campaigns and free airtime, as a lot of countries do outside of the United States. England in one, and they hold elections in 2 weeks' time. We go through the whole process of a year or more for selecting a president, and $1 billion to finance a presidential campaign. As for Ferguson, we should endeavor to make sure that our police force represents the community in terms of the demographics, and that should be a long-term goal. And I hope we'll never have what happened in Ferguson, and I'm delighted to hear that the chief is in concurrence with that, and so I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman James Vassanella.
Thank you. Just want to let people know we have an opening on the Cable Television Advisory Committee, and we're very interested in having a new person come aboard. And you can either go on our website, I believe the form is readily available to fill out the community service applications. If you have any questions about it, you can email myself or the clerk, which will gladly answer any questions or send you a copy of the ordinance that created the committee. So it gives you a very good idea of what would be involved for anybody interested. You may have noticed the second leg of JFK Boulevard being paved recently. I think it was a little behind schedule, but we got it done. It looks great. And the third leg, which takes people through to Berger, which is most of the way up to Amwell, has been approved already, and road paving was mentioned earlier. Not sure if it will be in this fall or next spring's paving cycle, but it's been approved, and we'll see the next phase hopefully soon. I attended the meeting at the First Baptist Church. It was an honor to be invited, and it was very educational, and it was very informative. And my understanding is they're going to keep the dialogue going and perhaps expand it to other community groups and other churches or houses of worship. So it's good to deal with it in an ongoing way, so hopefully we'll never have to deal with it in a crisis. One other thing I just wanted to mention, as students and teachers and parents and bus drivers are all getting used to the new school year, just please be extra cautious out there. It is hectic, and have a good school year. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Brian Regan.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any additional comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, for my comments, and they are exactly the same as the deputy mayor's.
Here we go.
And, our
Tricky.
No, it's along the lines of great minds think alike.
Yeah.
And yours do too.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll ask our manager, Mr. Robert Vornlocker, if you've got anything to say.
Let me
to us.
break out my, no, actually, so the two things that I was going to report on, one I already did when Mr. Tibbs was here, and that was also the issue that Councilwoman Francois spoke about with, we'll call it FYPEP, because I can't come up with a nice, neat thing like a rise.
No, they say FIPEP.
Well, FIPEP, there we go. The other thing is, and I feel compelled, at least in part, to speak about the pool and the other part of Mr. Tibbs' comments tonight, and also the comments of several council members. The reality is that attendance was up at the pool this year over last year. I've spoken to Alisa Sipowicz, our recreation director, and Sue Van Aken, her assistant superintendent, and have gotten the numbers on the attendance at the pool, and the numbers are up over last year. As was requested by council prior to the pool season, there were at the Parkside Community Center sessions for registrations for the pool. You did not have to come here to the municipal complex to register for the pool. We held those sessions with bilingual employees so that any Spanish-speaking residents who had difficulty understanding were assisted by a Spanish-speaking employee. We also streamlined the process for all residents who live in the Parkside development so that if they were a resident, were not required to provide all of the information that some of the other residents were required, since they already met the standard for no charge for membership with the pool. And I certainly, if you know, that from an advertising standpoint, every avenue that's available to us that we advertise all of our recreation programs, the newsletter, the television station, the website, we made full use of all of those things, and we have a tremendous amount of response to those methods for all of our recreation programs. This is a neighborhood pool. It's not a community pool in the sense that a large aquatic center. This is a neighborhood pool. And the focus of this pool, ever since it was built back in the old days of Hamilton Park, before the park was renovated, was to serve that neighborhood that's around this pool. And we continue to focus our efforts on that, and we maintain records on who joins the pool and where they live, and year in and year out, the radius around the pool is defined as far as the membership is concerned. And so, we talk about the needs assessment, the recreation needs assessment, and the identifying of a need in this town for a township-wide aquatic center, and that's in the needs assessment, and we have discussed that recently among several council members and several committees. That's where I think we look to the future for that type of facility to serve the entire township. This pool and this park is, we talk about neighborhood parks, where our focus is on neighborhood parks. This is that neighborhood's park, and they have that pool. And so that's always been the township's focus on getting people to come to that pool. And Mr. Tibbs talked about getting someone out in the neighborhood. You have an employee by the name of Bruce Medley who goes out and knocks on doors and asks these kids to come use the pool because he's there. So that is done. So, I don't want it thought that the recreation department isn't doing everything possible with their limitations that they can to get kids to come to this pool. They are. Everything is always subject to improvement, and I'm not saying that we can't improve, but I don't want people to think that no one went to that pool, because people did go to that pool this summer, and Councilwoman, you're right, the weather was not exactly conducive through this summer for a lot of warm weather swimming, but people use that pool, and people will continue to use that pool. And that's all my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So now we go to item number 12, council discussion items, which we do not have any today. And next we go to item 13, approval of the minutes. Ms. Booker, we don't have any minutes, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. So next we go to item number 14, moving right along, approval of the warrants. The warrants are the bills that we pay. So warrants in the amount of $32,787,743.59 on September 9th, 2014, are presented to the Township Council for payment. Is there a motion to pay the warrants as read?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on payment of the warrants.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer? Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Thank you for remembering me this time.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have our tax year 2014 Hamilton Street SID Special Improvement District budget, public hearing and adoption. So it's going to be three parts. The first one is a resolution so that we can read the budget by title and not every detail of it. Number two will be a public hearing. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this particular resolution can do so. We're glad to hear what you have to say. And C, the actual resolution itself. So just in the beginning, and help me, Mr. Manager, if I have this off, it's $52,000. This covers July to December, and this is money that's left over, no new assessments as of this point.
There was a fund balance in the trust for the improvement district, and the decision, the recommendation of the advisory board was to utilize money from that fund balance as opposed to a new assessment for this 6-month period.
Okay, and this is becoming a calendar year like the rest of the town, so October, November, we suspect we're going to be funding the next calendar year, basically. Okay, so 15A resolution. This resolution allows us to read it by title as opposed to the whole thing. This is Resolution 14-408, read tax year 2014 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District by title. This is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Pardon me, moved, seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on Resolution 14-408, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
I'm thinking of punishing you and saying no, but yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay. Motion is carried. We next have 15B for the public hearing. Is there a motion for the public hearing on the tax year 2014 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District budget?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on the tax year 2014 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District budget. Anyone interested in speaking on this particular item, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one coming forward, Mayor, I'll Motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Thank you very much. Public hearing is completed for this item. So now we come to 17C, the actual resolution, which is 14-409, to adopt tax year 2014 Hamilton Street Special Improvement District budget. This is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for the resolution?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on resolution 14-409, item 15C on the agenda, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Motion is carried. So we have a number of public hearings and adoption of ordinances on second reading. Usually an ordinance goes into law after 2 votes. There's an initial vote where it's introduced. Then usually the next meeting, there's a final adoption. And at that second vote, there's a public hearing where public can speak on that particular ordinance. And then if it is approved this second time, it goes into law. 16 as I'm counting of them for
Wow.
today. So, and each one should take roughly an hour, and we'll get through this as quickly as we can. Okay, first is 16. Okay. First.
I have a question for Mr. Dominic on number 14.
Mr. Dominic, Mr. Raynaud has indicated that there may be some questions for you on ordinance number 14 on the list, so you might want to have a seat back.
No, really?
Actually not, though.
So the first is 16A on the agenda, ordinance 4067-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of conservation easement from Arkatheus, Karwowski, and Malgarazata Karwowski, pardon me for mispronunciations, if any, to the Township of Franklin for a premises known as Block 502.01, Lot 3.01, more commonly 427 Elizabeth Avenue. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. It's a fairly standard conservation easement to the town. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one come forward, Mayor, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16A, ordinance 4067-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have 16B, ordinance 4068-14, an ordinance to acquire by purchase or condemnation certain lands within the Township of Franklin, Somerset County for open space purposes, and to authorize the sale of certain premises in the Township of Franklin pursuant to NJSA 40A:20-13A, just block 285, lots 3, 4, and 5 on Belmar Avenue. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. This is acquiring some open space near our Little League field. This is related to the next one, C. This authorizes the acquisition. The next one will authorize the ability to spend the money. So, is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one raise their hand, I make a motion to close the public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried.
Mr. Mayor, quickly, before we get
Councilman
into
Chase, yes.
introduction, I'd like to ask the manager, I apologize for not having had a chance to ask this first, why is there a section in there to authorize the sale of the purchases on this and I think the next open space ordinance?
There has to be an ordinance to authorize the purchase, and then there has to be an ordinance to authorize the expenditure of the funds. That's why it's on there twice. So in this particular case, and if you ask me about the legal wording of the ordinance, I would say that there's a man 2 people down from you on the dais that could probably answer that better than I. But I know that it's just that we have to do 2 ordinances, one for the authorization of the purchase and one for the expenditure of the funds.
Well,
No, actually, it's just a typo.
Go ahead. So there's a typo on this here. So there you go. That's what I said. You need to ask him about the wording.
I was in my 3rd year of law school. There.
Okay.
This ordinance is to authorize the purchase. I don't believe that there's anything in this that is authorizing. So, number 3, I don't know that there's any reason why we're not selling it again, right? So
We are not.
So, it's authorizing, so in the title and in item number 3, it should be noted that the purchase.
Well, it says,
Yeah, I don't,
and to authorize.
actually, I don't,
the sale.
Anne Marie, I'm not sure how that got
And
in.
in the actual
Number 3.
ordinance, there's a passage about authorizing the sale of the same,
Number 3 should be deleted,
and,
should be taken out of it.
and the same thing comes up on the Skillman Lane property. It must be something where when you hit a certain key,
I'm not sure.
it installs a whole section of boilerplate that includes this. But I wouldn't want the people to think that we were going to turn around and sell these open space acquisitions.
Correct.
Okay, so I'll ask our attorney, can that still go through?
Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
Should we delete it, or?
No, it can.
have to
It's,
merge?
no.
Just
It-
go
it's
with
fine.
it?
You can delete it, yes.
Okay. Anything else on this? Okay. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16B, ordinance 4068-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We now have 16C on the agenda, ordinance 4069-14, a capital ordinance providing for the acquisition of property known as Block 285, lots 3, 4, and 5 at Belmar Avenue in and by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, known as the Township, appropriating $222,000 therefore from the Open Space Trust Fund of the Township to pay for the costs thereof. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. A public hearing is in order. As I said, this authorizes expending the money for the item immediately above, which authorized the acquisition. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one raising their hand, I move to close the public discussion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Sorry. I
No.
got ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Ms. McCarthy. Someday I'm going to learn this job.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion
Wish
is
we
carried.
could do it that fast.
Yeah.
We have a group.
Now we have 16D, ordinance 4070-14, an ordinance to acquire by purchase or condemnation certain lands within the Township of Franklin, Somerset County for open space purposes. This This might be altered, as we said, but it reads, "And to authorize the sale of certain premises in the Township of Franklin pursuant to NJSA 40A:20-13A, Block 85, Lot 43, better known as 334 Skillman's Lane. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. This is to pay for development rights near the, pronouncing right, the Cercelli Tree Farm, which is near Negri Napoti. We get the development rights, so it'll saves the town some money, but it'll always be open and farmed. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one coming forward, Mayor, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please pull the council on item 16D, ordinance 4070-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We now have 16E on the agenda, ordinance 4071-14, capital ordinance providing for the acquisition of development rights, a property known as Block 85, Lot 4, located at 334 Skillman's Lane, in and by the Township of Franklin, in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, known as the Township, appropriating $259,350 therefore from the Open Space Trust Fund of the Township to pay for the costs thereof. This is providing for the money for the prior ordinance for which we just passed, providing for the acquisition. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. A public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. The meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one come forward, I move we close this portion of the public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Is there motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication
So moved.
with law?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please pull the council on item 16E, ordinance 4071-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We now have item 16F on the agenda, ordinance 4072-14, capital ordinance, providing for the reconstruction of Castleton Park tennis courts and basketball courts for open space purposes, by and in the Township of Franklin, in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, known as the Township, appropriating $275,000 therefore from the Open Space Trust Fund of the Township to pay for the costs thereof. Again, this coming from our Open Space Trust for Castleton Park. The council has visited this in the budgets and earlier. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one come forward, Mayor, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance?
So moved.
Publication of
Seconded.
Law.
I'm so sorry.
Moved.
So moved, Mayor.
And seconded. Madam Clerk, please pull the council on item 16F, ordinance 4072-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We next have item 16G on the agenda, ordinance 4073-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 13, Boards, Commissions, and Committees of the Township of Franklin's Municipal Code by repealing Article 5, Business and Industry Advisory Board, in its entirety, and replacing with a new Article 5, Cultural Arts Council, amending Article 22, Raritan and Millstone Rivers Flood Control Commission, Section 13-97, Participation in Commission, and adding new Article 23, Franklin Youth Initiative. So what this does is eliminate Business and Industrial Advisory Board, which has not been active for years, more codifying Cultural Arts Council by putting it in there, adding our Franklin Youth Initiative, which has been around a while and done very good work, and basically, I guess it's Raritan Millstone Rivers Flood Control Commission, adding us and able to pay our dues.
It's changing the amount of the dues.
Changing the amount of dues, thank you. Okay. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one, I make a motion to close the public
Second.
portion of this.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please pull the council on item 16G, ordinance 4073-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Motion is carried. We now have item 16H, ordinance 4074-14, ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, Chapter 93, Alcoholic Beverages, Section 93-14, Public Consumption Prohibited, subsection C. This basically allows alcoholic beverages to be an easier process for alcoholic beverages to be permitted at our Meadows House, our historical houses, which the municipality owns and the Meadows Foundation runs. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. Public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one, I make a motion to close the
Seconded.
portion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance
So moved.
Second.
and publication in accordance with law? Moved and seconded. Thank you. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on item 16H, ordinance 4074-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor
Yes.
Regan? Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We now have item 16I, ordinance 4075-14, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 284, Recycling of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Article 2, Convenience Center. And this allows the addition of additional materials to be brought to our convenience center, which used to be called the mini dump a couple of years ago, at no cost to our residents. The attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one, I make a motion to close this public portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on item 16I, ordinance 4075-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer? Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We next have item 16J, ordinance 4076-14. This is an ordinance to amend the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, by amending Chapter 330 entitled Stormwater Management, Article 12, Inspection and Subsequent Fines for Noncompliance of Ordinance, Section 330-30, Inspection and Subsequent Fines for Noncompliance of Ordinance, subsection B. This affects only private residences who have a stormwater basin for themselves and a few neighbors. They used to pay a fee to the Township of Franklin. This ordinance eliminates the fee for detention basins on private residences that only serve a few homes. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. Public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one coming forward, I move to close the public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved, seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 16J, ordinance 4076-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We next come to item 16K, ordinance 4077-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, repealing Code Chapter 384 Water, Article 9 Water Emergencies in its entirety, and replacing it with a new Article 9 Water Conservation. This we have seen in a few iterations before, so just so we're sure on any final changes, I'm going to ask our attorney, Mr. Raynone, if he can tell us how this changes. anything.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is really a comprehensive approach. It's part of Sustainable New Jersey. It's comprehensive approach to water conservation. It's an attempt to adopt some best practices in the area. It really has, I guess, four major components. It sets mandatory restrictions on smaller lots that are serviced by well water, lots smaller than 40,000 square feet. It sets advisories with regards to all residential lots that are on city water or public water. It establishes best practices for the installation of new irrigation systems, and it also continues and updates the provisions on what happens in a water emergency. So that's basically the outline of the ordinance, Mr. Mayor. It's like I said, it's a kind of our next generation of water conservation as best practices have evolved.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, the Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is the motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one raising a hand, I make a motion to close the public portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance?
So moved.
Application of
Seconded.
Law. Moved and seconded. So just a quick discussion, since this has come to us before, there's been much discussion, much compromise, and, my position's been consistent. I appreciate the compromise, the restructuring. I realize that most of this is advisory for everyone. My one concern, okay, anyone who's on city water, this isn't affected, however, it's a good idea to look at it and come and see the best practices. My concern is on homes less than an acre, they can water their lawns twice per week. And here's my particular thing. When we've had more water emergencies in the past, the council or directed or manager's been authorized to issue water restrictions on people. So seeing that no one's come to me and said they've been popping up mud or anything, I appreciate this and all the time with it and the concern in our sustainable Jersey. I just don't know that that's something I would go with at this time, to batter it back and forth in my mind, only because most people don't, frankly, water more than twice a week anyway, but, I haven't seen the issue come up that I'm trying to solve yet. And that's my point. Councilman Chase, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to reply. I remember
Sure.
a couple of summers ago, it was a drier summer perhaps than this one, we did have people on Charles Street come in complaining that their pumps were sucking up mud, as you put it. And I'd had a specific complaint from Griggstown of somebody who was worried that a neighbor who was watering his lawn excessively might draw down the very local water table for other people's wells, and that's why that particular provision is in there, to try to ensure that, just to remind people on wells that their overwatering may deplete their neighbors' wells, and to provide a provision. After all, first the enforcement is only going to come when somebody complains, and even then, the first offense is merely a warning, and I would hope that nobody goes beyond that. But we do have a provision in there to protect wells. It's just rather limited areas where you have a number of small lots, and one well could affect another well.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Regan.
Thank you. As you recall, when this was, a number of months ago, when this was attempted to be introduced, I spoke against introducing it at that time. I had some significant concerns about how, in my opinion, it was very restrictive. And some of those points you agreed with, and you were also. But having, taken that and worked with my peers, specifically with Councilman Chase, I believe that I'm afraid to use the pun, this is a watered-down version of it, but that this is a much more flexible and reasonable approach to this ordinance. I believe, naturally, the concern that Councilman Chase had regarding the situation is potentially a very real concern, and I think that our ability to work together, along with taking input from our attorney, has produced a version of this ordinance that I'm certainly very comfortable with moving forward with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You both make very good points. Councilman Kramer?
Yeah, I just want to second Councilman Chase's comments about Charles Street in my ward. They literally do suck mud when there's a drought. So-
Not the residents, the wells.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
good clarification.
Okay, thanks. Good points. I appreciate it. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16K, ordinance 4077-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Okay. Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Not filler.
Okay. So now we come to item 16L, ordinance 4078-14. A bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 3811, which had final adoption on January 27, 2009, providing for the 2009 road overlay program, as amended by bond ordinance number 3877-10, final adoption on April 27, 2010, by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, to increase the useful life thereof. Now, this ordinance and the next three, 16L, M, N, and O, and P, I think through the end, they are adjusting the life of the bonds. So we're now actually taking what we did, and we're selling bonds at a good rate. They're not actually sold yet, and it's kind of taking average life based on all the items we're going to delineate. So again, there's an average life in the bonds. That's what changes it. Then we go sell the bonds, and since we're AA+, we're getting a good rate. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this particular ordinance?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for a public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one to raise their hand, I make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 16L, ordinance 4078-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We next come to item 16M, ordinance 4079-14. A bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 3876-10, final adoption on April 13, 2010, providing for the 2010 road overlay program by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, to increase the useful life thereof. Again, this is adjusting the bond life on these bonds to an average amongst all of them. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. A public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Motion to close?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 16M, ordinance 4079-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Motion is carried. We next have item 16N, ordinance 4080-14, bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 3963-12, final adoption on February 28, 2012, providing for the 2012 road overlay program by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, to increase the useful life thereof. Again, adjusting the bond life to the actual amongst the various bonds. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this particular ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Motion to close?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance
So
and
moved.
publication in accordance with law?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16N, Ordinance 4080-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Motion is carried. We next have 16O on the agenda, Ordinance 4081-14, a bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 3982-12. Final adoption was August 14th, 2012, providing for the 2012 road resurfacing program by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, to increase the useful life thereof. Once more, adjusting the bond life to actual amongst these various bonds. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Motion to close.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16O, ordinance 4081-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We are now at item 16P, ordinance 4082-14, and we tearfully come to the last ordinance hearing for the day. This a bond ordinance amending bond ordinance number 4026-13, final adoption on July 16th, 2013, providing for the 2013 road overlay program by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, to increase the useful life thereof. And one final time, this is to adjust the bond lives to actual averaging amongst these bonds. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
MTC, otherwise known as motion to close.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for a public hearing?
So moved.
Fine, sorry.
Passage.
Yeah, final passage
final
of this
pa-
ordinance and publication in accordance with law.
So moved.
Moved
Second.
and
Second.
Okay, we'll do that. And Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on 16P, ordinance 4082-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have, those were our ordinance second readings and public hearing, final passages. Now we have two ordinance introductions, which are expected to be voted for final next meeting. First is 17A, ordinance 4083-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of conservation easement from James Lenahan to the Township of Franklin for premises known as Block 259, Lot 81, more commonly known as 81 Winchester Way. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2014 at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 17A, ordinance 4083-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Motion is carried. We have the second and final of our ordinance introductions. It's item 17B on the agenda, ordinance number 4084-14. And, I'm sorry, that last one was a standard conservation easement. This is an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly, Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 226-30, on-street handicap parking space, add 107 Brookline Avenue in Somerset. This is to add an on-street handicap parking space. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2014, at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 17B, ordinance 4084-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois? Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yep.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Next, we have item number 18A through AJ. This are consented, I'm sorry, it goes through AM now, is that right?
AM.
AM, I'm sorry. A through AM.
Like Anne Marie.
Just like this meeting could go to the AM.
Yes, going through the AM, right. Very good. So, the consent agenda are items of a generally routine nature, which the council can have one vote. It is any council person's prerogative to take something off for a separate vote, and certainly to ask questions or discuss any particular items. There's words on here like bonds, but this is not issuing bonds. It's combining certain issues on bonds on which we had voted in the past. So is there a discussion? Well, let's see. The items 18A through 18AM, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for the consent agenda? Discussion?
Just, Mayor, oh,
Yes.
Motion for consent agenda.
second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Councilman Vasanella?
Yes. I had a question about a resolution, not necessarily at this point looking to separate out the vote. And that would be Resolution 14-421, support Leewood Renaissance at Franklin's application for choice grants, program grants. I basically understand it to be that we're putting a resolution forward for passage that supports their project, and it's not that I don't support it, but I did want to know, I see at the last paragraph of it, it's acknowledging if I'm understanding this correctly, the township's commitment of $1 million from our Affordable Housing Trust Fund as part of the financing of the project. My only question relevant to that is, because I know we do, upon a council approval, make subsidies, give money towards projects in the redevelopment area and other areas perhaps, but sometimes those amounts change. And my question is whether that $1 million was the original amount that council had intended on giving them from the beginning of the project. They asked that because I know a lot of these projects evolve and have many changes where certain aspects of the projects change, and sometimes the request for township funding changes. So I don't know if the manager or attorney or someone on the redevelopment agency may be aware of the answer to that question. I'm sorry I didn't send it to anybody earlier. I just,
No, that's
as
okay.
going through resolutions,
My
I just caught my
understanding
eye.
is that there is no additional funding being requested other than what has been allocated previously to Leewood as part of their redevelopment. This is simply a resolution in support of Leewood's development so that they can make application for this grant money. That's all. This is just documentation of what was previously funded by the township.
So that 1
through the
million
Housing Trust.
would have been as far as you know, would have been the original amount?
That's the original,
Previously committed.
previously committed money.
And it was,
Thank you. That's the
and
words
the
I'm looking
original
for.
amount of units was 43 also, or close to it?
In that phase, not in the overall development,
Okay,
but in
but in the phase that we had
In
originally committed.
in this phase that they are making application for the grant is 43 affordable units.
Okay. I just asked because
That's not the total that Leewood
Right.
is obligated to the township.
But it's not like we had offered them help with $1 million and they were building 140 units and now it's 40.
No,
that was the
correct.
original.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Just making sure because I know sometimes they change. So, okay, I'm fine with it based on the information, Mayor, just given to me to keep it intact with the rest of the resolutions.
Okay, that's an excellent point. Anything else on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Kramer?
I just thought a bit unusual, all too unusual, just items A, F, and AG. We're actually reducing contract amounts because of road paving, because I guess they're able to do it a little cheaper. AH reminded me to ask the manager, this is about paving Clyde Road. We discussed at one point trying to rip out the railroad tracks.
That's
of
funny.
Clyde
I knew
Road.
you were going to ask that tonight.
And I'm just finding who to ask.
No,
you know.
no, I laughed because I had a conversation at about 20 after 3 this afternoon with our township engineer, and I said, there's a councilman who is going to ask me sooner or later about a follow-up on the railroad tracks on Clyde and Veronica. Could you let me know where we're at with this? And his answer was that Conrail, the owners of those railroad tracks, have not responded to the email that was sent out of his office. So I asked today for him to have his senior engineer follow up with Conrail with the information that's provided on their website out of Philadelphia, with a phone call and a letter. So I didn't even realize I mean, I knew this was on the agenda, but I didn't think you'd go and make that connection, but I knew you would ask, so there's the answer.
Very good. We don't want to just tear out the tracks.
No, we don't want to do it without telling them, but although I doubt if we'd see a train go across or try to cross them without them there. But no, I really think that that's the proper way to deal with both Veronica and Clyde, so we're going to continue to pursue that, and hopefully that letter will work today.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the consent agenda? Okay, we have motion and second for the consent agenda. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the consent agenda.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We next have item 19, resolutions voted on separately, of which we do not have any. That leaves us to item 20, old business. Any for 2014 board and commission vacancies? Any nominations of these items,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
these positions? Yes, Councilman Prasad?
I'd like to nominate Shivani Pathak, who has actually served in the past on the Health Advisory Board, and also Deborah Redinger, who's served on the advisory board also in the past. So their community service applications are on file and have been reviewed by the council.
Okay,
So it's just a reappointment.
okay. Is there any other nominations? Okay, those have, help me if I got this wrong. Shivani Pathak
Yeah.
and Deborah Redinger.
Yeah.
By acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Motion is carried. Congratulations to both of them. Thank you very much for serving our community. Any other nominations? Okay, then we come to item number 21, executive session, which we do not have this evening, which leads us to item 22, adjournment. Is there
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
moved and seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? We are
Opposed.
adjourned. Thank you very much. We will see you